Don't do this, Yvette. I can explain everything. Please, just listen to me.
Get him out of here now!
The night Sophia Grant discovered the truth about her fiancé was the night she stopped believing in love. Crystal glasses shattered across the marble floor of her penthouse as the man she once trusted begged desperately in front of her. Hello guys, welcome to my channel where interesting stories of billionaire love stories are told. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Sophia stood still in the middle of the living room, her arms crossed calmly, her face unreadable. Anyone watching would have thought she felt nothing. But inside, something was breaking. Everyone believed Sophia Grant had the perfect life. She was the only daughter of Victor Grant, the powerful billionaire behind one of the largest logistics companies in the country. The Grant Corporation controlled shipping routes across continents, warehouses in major cities, and a fortune that most people could only imagine. Sophia had grown up surrounded by wealth. Private jets were normal to her. Luxury cars waited outside her door every morning. Mansions stood in 3 different countries with her name on the documents. But there was one thing money had never been able to buy. Real love. Every man who came close to Sophia always wanted the same thing. Her father's empire. And tonight, she had finally caught another one. Her fiancé, Ryan, was pacing nervously across the penthouse floor while Sophia's phone rested on the glass table between them. On the screen were messages. Dozens of them. Ryan had sent them to a friend just hours earlier. Once I marry Sophia, everything changes. Her father is old. Soon the company will be hers. And when it is, I'll be the one really in charge. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Sophia, please listen. It's not what it looks like. Sophia slowly picked up the phone and glanced at the messages again. Her voice was calm. Too calm. So you were planning the future already, she said quietly. Ryan stepped closer. You don't understand. Those messages were just jokes between friends. Sophia tilted her head slightly. Jokes about stealing my father's company? Ryan hesitated. And that hesitation was enough. Sophia walked to the wall and pressed a small silver button. Within seconds, 2 security guards appeared at the door. Ryan's face turned pale. Sophia, wait. But Sophia didn't look at him anymore. She turned toward the massive window overlooking the glowing city lights. The guards approached Ryan. Sir, you need to leave. Ryan panicked. Sophia. I love you. I swear I do. Sophia's reflection stared back at her from the glass window. Cold. Unmoved. And then she spoke one sentence that sounded more like a quiet verdict. Love doesn't exist in my world. Ryan struggled as the guards dragged him toward the door. Sophia, please. The door closed. And the penthouse fell silent. For a moment, Sophia stood there alone. Then she slowly walked to the couch and sat down. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she poured herself a glass of champagne. Across the room, a single tear slid down her cheek. Later that night, her father arrived. Victor Grant was not the type of man who rushed anywhere. But when he heard what happened, he came immediately. Even age had not softened him much. His hair had turned silver, and he now walked with a slight stiffness, but his eyes were still sharp. The eyes of a man who had built an empire from nothing. He sat across from Sophia in the quiet living room. You discovered the truth, he said. Sophia nodded. Victor sighed. I warned you about men like him. Sophia stared into her glass. It's always the same story. Victor leaned back in his chair. In business, he said slowly, power commands respect. He paused before finishing the thought. But in love, power attracts liars. Sophia looked at her father. Did you ever love someone who wasn't lying to you? Victor's expression softened for the first time. Yes, he said quietly. Your mother. The room fell silent again. Sophia's mother had died when she was young. Victor rarely spoke about her. She never cared about my money, Victor continued. When we met, I didn't even have any. Sophia smiled faintly. Sounds like a rare story. It is, Victor replied. He leaned forward. You will inherit everything soon, Sophia. This company. The responsibility. The power. Sophia nodded slowly. And the loneliness? Victor didn't answer immediately. Then he said something that stayed with her long after he left. Love is a luxury people like us can rarely afford. When her father finally left the penthouse that night, Sophia stood alone on the balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly across the horizon. Millions of people living their lives. Falling in love. Trusting each other. Dreaming. But Sophia felt like she lived in a completely different world. A world where every smile had a hidden motive. Every compliment came with a price. She wrapped her arms around herself against the cold night air. No more, she whispered. No more love. No more trust. She believed she meant it. But fate had already started writing a different story. The next evening, Sophia did something unusual. Instead of attending a corporate dinner or a luxury event, she drove alone into the older part of the city. The streets there were quieter. More ordinary. She parked near a small neighborhood cafe. It was the kind of place she had never visited before. Inside, the atmosphere was simple and warm. Soft music played from an old speaker. A few customers sat quietly drinking coffee. Sophia chose a small table near the window and sat down. For once, nobody recognized her. For once, nobody cared that she was the daughter of a billionaire. And for the first time in a long time, Sophia felt invisible. A few minutes later, a waiter approached her table. He looked ordinary. Simple black apron. Calm expression. But there was something about his presence that felt different. Peaceful. What would you like? He asked politely. Sophia glanced up. His name tag read Daniel. Just coffee, she said. Daniel nodded. No problem. He brought the coffee a moment later and placed it gently on the table. No curious questions. No attempts at conversation. Just quiet professionalism. Then he walked away. Sophia watched him for a moment. Most people treated her like she was a celebrity. Or a walking bank account. But Daniel acted like she was just another customer. Nothing more. Nothing less. And strangely, that felt refreshing. Sophia took a sip of the coffee and leaned back in her chair. For the first time since the betrayal the night before, her mind felt quiet. She didn't know it yet. But that quiet waiter with calm eyes was about to change everything she believed about love. And what he would do next would leave an entire company speechless. Sophia finished her coffee that evening and quietly left the small cafe, believing the moment meant nothing. But for some reason, the calm face of the waiter stayed in her mind longer than she expected. Daniel. It was strange how someone so ordinary could feel so different. The next morning, Sophia returned to the world she knew best, the fast, sharp world of business. Grant Corporation's headquarters towered over the financial district like a monument to power. The glass skyscraper reflected the morning sunlight as dozens of employees hurried through the entrance. Inside, Sophia moved through the lobby with quiet authority. People greeted her with respectful smiles. Good morning, Miss Grant. Morning, Ms. Grant. Welcome back. She nodded politely to each one, but her expression remained neutral. She had learned long ago that most of those smiles came from obligation, not sincerity. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor. Her office overlooked the city from 40 stories above ground. A massive desk stood near the window, surrounded by sleek furniture and screens displaying real-time shipping routes across the world. But even in this powerful office, Sophia felt the same quiet loneliness she had felt on her balcony the night before. Her assistant walked in holding a stack of reports. "Morning, Ms. Grant. There's a warehouse inspection scheduled today. Would you like to attend?" Sophia paused. Normally she would delegate something like that. But today felt different. "Yes," she said simply. An hour later, her car pulled into one of the company's largest warehouses on the edge of the city. Workers were busy moving crates, checking inventory, and loading trucks. Sophia stepped out of the car while the warehouse manager rushed toward her nervously. "Miss Grant, we weren't expecting you personally." Sophia gave a small smile. "Just doing my job." They walked inside together while workers continued moving around them. Then Sophia stopped. Her eyes had locked onto someone near the back of the building. A man pushing a cart filled with boxes. A familiar face. Daniel. The same quiet waiter from the cafe. Except now he was wearing work gloves and a warehouse vest. Sophia blinked in surprise. For a moment she wondered if it was really him. But then Daniel looked up briefly. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed across his face for a split second. Then he simply nodded politely and went back to moving boxes. No excitement. No attempt to speak. No sudden change in behavior. Sophia stood there confused. The warehouse manager noticed her pause. "Is everything okay, Miss Grant?" "Yes," she said slowly. But her eyes followed Daniel for a moment longer. Most people reacted very differently when they realized who she was. Some became nervous. Others suddenly became overly friendly. But Daniel behaved exactly the same as he had in the cafe. Like she was just another person in the room. Sophia finished the inspection and returned to her car. But something about the encounter lingered in her thoughts. 2 days later, another strange coincidence happened. Sophia was driving through a busy street after a long meeting when traffic forced her to stop near a small roadside garage. A group of workers were washing cars under the hot afternoon sun. Sophia glanced outside the window absent-mindedly. Then she froze. Daniel stood beside one of the cars, carefully spraying water over the windshield. Sophia almost laughed in disbelief. The same man. Again. She rolled down the window slightly. Daniel noticed her car and walked closer with a polite smile. "Car wash, ma'am." Sophia stared at him. "You work here too?" Daniel shrugged casually. "Part-time." Sophia studied him for a moment. "Do you have a habit of appearing everywhere I go?" Daniel chuckled softly. "I could ask the same question." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Are you following me?" Daniel shook his head calmly. "No, ma'am." He pointed at the garage behind him. "I just work wherever I can get a job." His tone was simple and honest. No embarrassment. No pride either. Just a statement of fact. Sophia leaned back in her seat. "You work at a cafe, a warehouse, and a car wash." Daniel smiled slightly. "Life is expensive." Sophia almost smiled too. For a brief moment, she forgot about business deals, corporate politics, and betrayal. She handed him the keys. "Fine. Wash it." Daniel worked quietly while Sophia watched from inside the car. Unlike the other workers joking loudly around him, Daniel focused carefully on the job. He cleaned every corner of the car with surprising attention. When he finished, he handed the keys back. "All done." Sophia looked at the shining car. "Impressive." Daniel shrugged again. "A job is a job." Sophia hesitated. Then she asked something unexpected. Do you always work this hard? Daniel leaned slightly on the car door. My mother used to say something. What? You do something, do it well. Even if no one is watching. Sophia looked at him thoughtfully. Most people she knew worked hard when someone important was watching. Daniel worked the same way whether anyone noticed or not. It was different. She drove away, but his words stayed with her. A few evenings later, Sophia arrived at her countryside house outside the city. It was quieter there. More peaceful. She preferred staying there when she wanted to escape the noise of her corporate life. But when she opened the kitchen cabinets that night, she realized something. They were almost empty. Sophia sighed and pulled out her phone. Cooking had never been part of her lifestyle. She ordered groceries online and selected express delivery. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Sophia walked to the door and opened it. Standing outside with several grocery bags was Daniel. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sophia laughed softly. This is getting ridiculous. Daniel smiled. Looks like it. He stepped inside and placed the groceries on the kitchen counter. Sophia crossed her arms. Let me guess. You also work as a delivery driver? Daniel nodded. Night shifts. Sophia shook her head in disbelief. How many jobs do you have? Daniel counted casually on his fingers. 4. Sophia stared at him. Why? Daniel shrugged again. Because bills don't pay themselves. Sophia was about to respond when suddenly a loud beep echoed through the house. The smart security system flashed red. The front door locked automatically. Sophia frowned and walked toward the control panel. What was that? Daniel checked the screen. Looks like a system error. Sophia tried entering the code again. Nothing happened. Daniel pressed a few buttons. Still nothing. After a moment, the system displayed a message. Security lockdown, estimated reset time, 3 hours. Sophia slowly turned around. You're telling me we're locked inside? Daniel nodded. Looks like it. Sophia stared at him for a moment. Then she laughed again. Well, this day just keeps getting stranger. Daniel placed one of the grocery bags on the counter and pulled out a pack of pasta. Sophia watched him curiously. What are you doing? Daniel glanced back at her. Since we're stuck here. He held up a tomato. We might as well eat. Sophia blinked. You can cook. Daniel grinned slightly. Better than I can deliver groceries. Sophia leaned against the kitchen counter while Daniel began preparing the meal. For the next hour, something unusual happened. The billionaire heiress and the poor waiter sat in the same kitchen. Talking. Laughing. And for the first time in years. Sophia forgot she was a billionaire. The smell of freshly cooked pasta filled the quiet countryside house as Daniel placed 2 simple plates on the dining table. Sophia stared at the food in mild disbelief. You actually made this from scratch? Daniel wiped his hands on a small towel and nodded. Nothing fancy. Sophia lifted a fork and tasted the food cautiously. Her eyebrows lifted. This is, surprisingly good. Daniel laughed softly. I'll take that as a compliment. They sat across from each other, the atmosphere relaxed in a way Sophia hadn't experienced in years. Normally, dinners in her life involved executives, investors, or people trying to impress her. This was different. No expectations. No hidden agendas. Just 2 people eating pasta in a quiet house because a security system had malfunctioned. Sophia leaned back in her chair. Where did you learn to cook? Daniel smiled faintly. My mother. Sophia noticed something gentle in his voice when he mentioned her. She must be proud. Daniel's smile faded slightly. She passed away a few years ago. Sophia's expression softened. I'm sorry. Daniel shrugged lightly, though his eyes carried a hint of sadness. She always said something that stuck with me. What was that? Sophia asked. That kindness costs nothing. Daniel said. But it can change someone's entire day. Sophia looked down at her plate. Her world had never been that simple. 3 hours passed faster than either of them expected. When the security system finally reset and the front door unlocked, the moment felt strangely disappointing. Daniel grabbed his jacket. Well, looks like my shift continues. Sophia walked him to the door. Thank you for the food. Daniel smiled. You're welcome. He stepped outside, then paused. Good night, Sophia. She watched him walk down the driveway toward his motorcycle. For the first time in a long time, Sophia felt something unfamiliar. Curiosity. The next morning, Sophia returned to Grant Corporation's headquarters. Her schedule was packed with meetings, financial reviews, and planning sessions. But something unexpected happened around noon. A group of movers arrived to relocate some office furniture for a renovation project. Sophia barely paid attention at first as she walked through the hallway with her assistant. Then she heard a familiar voice. Careful with that box. Sophia turned around. There he was again. Daniel. This time wearing a moving company uniform. Sophia blinked. This was starting to feel like fate playing a strange game. Daniel noticed her and gave a small polite nod, just like always. No excitement. No awkwardness. He simply continued doing his job. But someone else was watching. Mark Reynolds. Mark was the senior operations manager at Grant Corporation. He had worked for the company for over 15 years and believed he deserved far more recognition than he received. When he saw Sophia talking briefly with Daniel, something ugly stirred inside him. Jealousy. Suspicion. Mark had spent years trying to impress Sophia. Yet she barely noticed him. And now she seemed curious about a random worker. Mark decided to find out why. That afternoon, an announcement spread through the office. A valuable antique watch belonging to Victor Grant had gone missing from the company safe. The watch wasn't just expensive. It was a family heirloom. Security immediately locked down the building. Every worker in the building was asked to remain where they were. Sophia arrived at the hallway where the investigation was happening. What's going on? She asked. The head of security answered. Miss Grant, your father's watch is missing. We're searching everyone who had access to this floor. Sophia nodded. Do it. One by one, employees opened their bags while security checked their belongings. Then it was Daniel's turn. He looked confused but cooperative as he handed his bag to the guard. The guard opened it. A moment later, he froze. Inside the bag was the antique watch. The hallway fell silent. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. What? The guard held up the watch. We found it. All eyes turned toward Daniel. Mark Reynolds crossed his arms smugly. I knew something felt off about that guy. Daniel shook his head quickly. No, that's impossible. I've never seen that watch before. Sophia stared at him. Then how did it get in your bag? Daniel looked genuinely confused. I don't know. Mark stepped forward dramatically. This is exactly why random workers shouldn't have access to executive floors. Daniel turned toward Sophia desperately. I swear I didn't take it. But Sophia's mind was clouded by something else. Betrayal. She had been fooled before. Her fiancé had lied to her for months. What if Daniel had been pretending too? Her voice became cold. Security. The guards grabbed Daniel's arms. Escort him out of the building. Daniel looked straight at her. I didn't do this. Sophia avoided his eyes. Take him away. As the guards dragged him toward the elevator, Daniel's voice echoed down the hallway. You're making a mistake. Sophia stood there silently. But something about the way he looked at her made her chest tighten. That evening, heavy rain poured across the city. Sophia was driving back from a late meeting when her car suddenly made a strange noise. Then the engine died. The car rolled to a stop on a quiet road outside the city. Sophia sighed and tried restarting the engine. Nothing happened. The rain grew heavier. Then something worse happened. The car's electronic system glitched. The doors locked automatically. Sophia tried the handle. It wouldn't open. Great, she muttered. Her phone battery showed only 2%. As she looked outside, she noticed movement down the road. 3 young men were walking toward the car. They noticed her inside. One of them tapped on the window with a grin. Car trouble. Sophia's heart began to race. Her phone was dying. Her car was locked. And the road was nearly empty. She scrolled quickly through her contacts. Her assistant. Her driver. Her father. Then she saw another name. Daniel. Her finger hovered over it. After everything that happened that afternoon. Should she call him? The men outside the car began circling slowly. One knocked on the glass again. Sophia swallowed and pressed the call button. The phone rang once. Twice. Then Daniel answered. Hello. Sophia's voice was tense. Daniel. I need help. He didn't hesitate. Where are you? 20 minutes later, the sound of a motorcycle cut through the rain. Headlights flashed across the dark road. The 3 men stepped back cautiously. Daniel parked beside the car and quickly examined the door lock. A few seconds later. Click. The door opened. Sophia stepped out quickly, her heart still pounding. Daniel looked at her calmly. Are you okay? Sophia nodded slowly. Yes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Rain poured around them. Finally Sophia whispered something she never expected to say. Thank you, for helping me. Daniel looked at her gently. Kindness costs nothing, he said quietly. Sophia suddenly realized something powerful. The man she had accused of stealing had just saved her life. Rain continued falling heavily as Daniel stood beside the road, his motorcycle engine humming quietly. Sophia sat inside the car for a moment after he unlocked the door, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. The road was nearly empty now. The 3 men who had circled the car earlier had disappeared once Daniel arrived. Sophia stepped out slowly. Her expensive coat was quickly soaked by the rain, but she barely noticed. She looked at Daniel. You still came, she said quietly. Daniel looked slightly confused. Of course. Sophia hesitated. After what happened today, after I accused you. Daniel shrugged lightly. You were doing your job. His calm answer somehow made her feel worse. Sophia looked down at the ground. I didn't believe you. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he knelt beside the car and examined the engine for a moment. Then he stood up again. The battery's dead, he said. We'll need to tow it tomorrow. Sophia nodded. And tonight? Daniel glanced at the empty road around them. My apartment isn't far from here. He said it carefully, almost like he expected her to refuse. You can stay there until morning. Sophia stared at him. A billionaire heiress, staying in a poor waiter's apartment. If someone had told her that story a week ago, she would have laughed. But tonight felt different. Sophia nodded. Okay. 15 minutes later, they arrived at a small apartment building tucked between older streets of the city. The hallway lights flickered slightly as they walked upstairs. Daniel unlocked the door and stepped aside. "Welcome to my palace," he joked lightly. Sophia stepped inside and looked around. The apartment was small but clean. A modest couch, a small table, a bookshelf filled with old novels. It felt peaceful. Daniel handed her a towel. "Dry off before you catch a cold." Sophia smiled faintly. "Thank you." Daniel walked into the kitchen area and started boiling water. "For tea," he explained. Sophia sat quietly on the couch while he moved around the apartment. Then something caught her attention. On the table near the window sat a small wooden frame. She walked closer and picked it up. Inside was a photo of Daniel standing beside an older woman. They were both smiling. "Your mother?" she asked softly. Daniel glanced over. "Yes." Sophia placed the photo back carefully. "She looks kind." Daniel nodded. She was. They sat quietly drinking tea for a few minutes. Finally, Sophia spoke again. "Daniel." He looked at her. "I want to ask you something honestly." "Okay." Sophia's eyes searched his face. "Did you steal the watch?" Daniel didn't react with anger or frustration. He simply shook his head slowly. "No." Sophia studied him carefully. "Then how did it get in your bag?" Daniel sighed. "I wish I knew." There was something genuine in his voice. Not defensive. Not desperate. Just tired. Sophia leaned back against the couch. "I may have made a mistake today." Daniel smiled gently. "Everyone does." Sophia looked at him again. "You're not angry with me?" Daniel chuckled. "Well, a little." Sophia laughed quietly. "That's fair." The next morning sunlight streamed through the apartment window. Sophia woke up on the couch to the smell of something cooking. She walked into the kitchen area and saw Daniel flipping pancakes. "You cook breakfast too?" she asked. Daniel grinned. "Part of the service." Sophia laughed. "You're full of surprises." After breakfast, Sophia stood near the door preparing to leave. Then she turned toward Daniel. "Come with me." Daniel looked confused. "Where?" "To the company." "Why?" Sophia smiled slightly. "Because I want to find out the truth." An hour later, they walked into Grant Corporation headquarters together. Employees immediately started whispering. "That's the guy from yesterday. Wasn't he the one accused of stealing?" Sophia ignored the murmurs and walked straight into the boardroom. Senior executives sat around the table. Mark Reynolds was among them. Sophia placed a tablet on the table and connected it to the large screen. "Before we begin today's meeting," she said calmly, "I want to review the security logs from yesterday." Mark shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The screen displayed footage from the executive floor. Sophia pressed play. The video showed Mark walking toward the company's safe late in the afternoon. Then opening it. Removing the watch. And later. Quietly placing it inside Daniel's bag when no one was looking. Gasps filled the room. Mark's face turned pale. This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. Sophia's voice was cold. "You framed an innocent man." Security guards stepped forward. "Mr. Reynolds," one of them said firmly, "you need to come with us." Mark was escorted out of the room while employees whispered in shock. Sophia turned toward Daniel. "Your name is cleared." Daniel nodded quietly. "Thank you." After the meeting ended, Daniel walked toward the exit. Sophia noticed and followed him. "You're leaving?" Daniel stopped. "I think it's better." "Why?" Daniel smiled gently. "You're a billionaire. I'm a guy with 4 jobs and a small apartment." Sophia crossed her arms. "And?" Daniel hesitated. "People like us don't usually belong in the same story." Sophia looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something unexpected. "Dinner tonight." Daniel blinked. "What?" Sophia smiled. That wasn't a question. Later that evening, they sat across from each other in a quiet restaurant. The atmosphere was simple. No reporters. No executives. Just 2 people. Daniel reached into his pocket slowly. "I need to show you something." He placed a small box on the table. Sophia opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring. Not expensive. But beautiful. Daniel took a deep breath. "I bought this a long time ago," he said. "I thought someday I'd give it to someone who truly mattered to me." Sophia's heart began to race. "But I never imagined that person could be someone like you." Daniel looked directly at her. "If you're willing to take the risk." He slid the ring across the table. "Will you marry me?" Sophia stared at him. Then she smiled. "Yes." A few days later, Grant Corporation held a major company event. Media cameras filled the auditorium. Sophia walked onto the stage. Beside her stood Daniel. Employees whispered in curiosity. Sophia raised the microphone. "A few days ago," she began, "this man was accused of stealing from this company." The room fell silent. "But the truth is, he showed more honesty than many people in this building." Daniel then stepped forward. He held up the silver ring. "This question deserves to be asked again." He looked at Sophia. "Will you marry me?" Sophia smiled and nodded. "Yes." The room erupted in applause. Reporters rushed forward. Employees cheered. But Daniel simply looked at Sophia quietly. And in that moment, the billionaire heiress who once believed love didn't exist in her world realized something powerful. The right person doesn't chase your wealth. They show up when you need them the most. Sophia spent years believing money made love impossible. But life taught her something deeper. Real love isn't about status, wealth, or power. It's about character, kindness, and courage when it matters most. Sometimes the person who changes your life forever isn't the one the world expects. It's the one who stands beside you when you are most vulnerable, asking for nothing except your trust. And when you finally recognize that kind of love, it becomes the greatest treasure of all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tell us what you learned in the comments below.